Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. We are just 1 week away from the President's State of the Union address next Tuesday. Biden will tell us how he thinks the country is doing nearly 1 year and 2 months into his presidency. But ahead of that, a new national poll is giving us insights into how African Americans think the country is doing under this president. And some of the numbers may surprise you. According to a CBS News YouGov poll, most African Americans approve of Biden's performance, though not nearly as many as before. But they don't approve when it comes to his handling of inflation. Biden's approval rating on race relations, immigration, the economy, and crime all get higher marks than on inflation, which rounds out the bottom at 43%. Race relations is the highest at 61%. And although black communities have been hit hard by COVID-19, 72% say that Biden is doing a good job handling the pandemic. That's a substantially higher number than the 56% of Hispanics and 42% of white Americans who said the same. And although last February a whopping 85% of black people approved of Biden's handling of the country, that number has now slipped to 66%. That's historically low when compared to recent Democratic presidents like Bill Clinton, who had a 72% approval rating 1 year into his term among black people, and Barack Obama, who was at 87%. But Biden's 66% approval rating among African Americans is still higher than his approval rating among Hispanics, whites, and adults overall, which is at 43%. And when the overall approval rating was broken down by age, it's black people 45 years and older who give Biden higher marks than those 45 years and younger. So what does all this mean about the State of the Union when it is seen through black people's eyes? Joining me now to discuss is the CEO of African American Research Collaborative, Henry Fernandez, and Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University at Los Angeles, Dr. Julianne Malveaux. So, Julianne, what do you think it means that Biden is getting his lowest numbers in this approval rating among black people on the issue of handling inflation?
Inflation hits black people harder. Poor black people are disproportionately poor. Poor people are hitting inflation more. If you had $100 today, it would cost you $107 to buy what you did last year. $107. So you're down. If you are wealthy and you're a vegan and you don't really worry about the cost of your food, it's not a big deal. If you've got 3 kids and you're trying to give the little brothers and sisters hamburgers and chicken nuggets, it's a big deal. And that's the difference. And inflation is hitting black folks and poor folks harder than anybody else. However, I think it's very interesting to see in terms of the Biden numbers, how people are responding to him otherwise. And this is not unusual. So what we have to say is that President Biden gets a C or maybe a B minus. He's not doing horribly, but he's not doing great.
So, Henry, Biden's approval rating among black people is higher than among other racial groups, but it is down significantly from when he first took office and also from the percentage of the black vote that he got when he ran for office. How does this translate into election prospects?
Well, I think the first thing we need to know is that black folks are not going to go and vote for Republicans. That's just not going to happen. It hasn't happened in any recent election. The real issue for African American voters is always about turnout. How energized will black people be in terms of getting out to vote? So inflation, as Professor Malveaux pointed out, is a big issue. The cost of things, particularly the cost of housing, is something that African Americans in our polling would like to see elected officials, particularly the president, deal with. We also see that there's some niche issues. You pointed out in that poll that there's a problem with younger black voters. And what we saw in polling that we did recently for UNCF is that young black voters, voters who are in college or who are recent graduates, would really like to see some loan forgiveness, student loan forgiveness. So that's a way to pull in that group of voters. So there's a good amount of work that needs to be done, but if there's a big issue or a big big promise that Biden made. It was around appointing a black woman to the Supreme Court. It looks like he's about to do that. I think that'll poll very, very well among African Americans.
Julianne, let's stay on this issue of younger voters. In the poll, there is a whopping gap, like a 20 percentage point gap between older black people's approval of Biden and younger black people's approval of Biden. What does that mean for Biden and for Democrats? You know, as Henry pointed out, it's not like black people are going to turn around and vote en masse for Republicans, but the idea of being trapped with a person who you're not really excited about could be problematic as well. What do you think it says?
Well, there are three things. Number one, and Henry is absolutely right. Black folks are not going to go run Republican because Biden has not met expectations. But number two, younger black voters are really looking for some student loan forgiveness. He promised it on the trail, and he has not shown up with it. And I think people are really frustrated about it. Okay, if he doesn't want to forgive everything, give everybody 10 grand. I mean, because what we know about student loans, as a former college president, as a current dean, is that it delays adulthood. If you have 50 grand worth of student loans, you're not getting married, you're not buying a house, you're not buying a car, you live with mama and daddy in them, and it is an economic drag. So to do even 10 grand would be helpful. But for some of those who come out of first generation low income households, to do the whole thing will be extraordinarily impactful. So one, as I said, we're not running to Republicans, but two, younger voters are looking at what have you done for me lately? And one of the things he could do is student loans. And number three, of course, people are energized by the possibility of a black woman on the Supreme Court. But what this possibility of this nomination has also done is lifted up the ignorance in white America.
Yeah.
Dr. Lisa Cook, a colleague and friend who has been nominated to be on the Federal Reserve Board, has been subject to the kind of attacks that are just totally unnecessary. And so when I talk to young people, they're very mixed. I'm in California, so you know, we as liberal as they come, but still, as liberal as we come, young people are wondering if politics is worth it. And that's the sad part. They're wondering if politics is worth it. Why am I doing this? People aren't doing anything for me. So Brother Biden needs to step up. And I would say Charles IV, because I said three, but of course, you know, I can't count. Part of the issue is the Biden administration has not done good work in saying what they do. They have done some great things, but they have not shared that. And when they don't share it, the right wing gets to do whatever they do, which is ignorance. But they need a better PR shot. They really, really do.
Right. Henry, they're gonna get that shot, you know, at the State of the Union to do more of that. But Henry, I want to come back to you on this younger voter issue. You know, some of it may be not selling what you're doing, but there are some things that the president said that he was going to do that would directly impact younger black voters. Younger black voters care a lot about. And one of them, as you pointed out, was student loan debt forgiveness. But there are other ones, right? There is police reform, which died in the Senate. There is the issue of voting rights. There are a lot of young black activists on the front lines around this country who've been out doing this work, stomping in the streets, protesting, and basically that died as well in the Senate. The president, the vice president, the entire administration seemed to say on the day that it died that they were going to keep fighting and nothing was going to stop them. But we've heard almost nothing from them on this issue of voting rights. How are all of these issues, not just student loan forgiveness, but the impression that, that the things that he promised black people that were disproportionately going to affect young black voters are the things that did not happen?
Sure. Well, it's important to remember that there are incredible things that they did accomplish, right? That the economy didn't collapse, that had huge benefits for black voters, for young black voters. The fact that unemployment did not skyrocket and has come down very quickly, even though African Americans we continue to be the last to be hired, we haven't seen so much of what was predicted, and so they have a lot to take credit for there. But let's take the issue of voting rights. I think it's really important that that President Biden and his administration be willing to pivot. It's important to remember he's still the most powerful person on the face of the earth. He has incredible executive authority. He has a Justice Department. He has other tools available to him. He has the bully pulpit, but particularly he has the law on his side on a lot of voting rights issues. He has a budget. He can use dollars to support election administrators and the expansion of the vote in lots of places. So voting rights is something that yes, it would be great to get a new law passed. We have a horrible set of courts now, a real product of McConnell and Trump. But he is the president of the United States, and he has real capacity to make a difference using the Justice Department, using other tools. And he should do that, and I want to re-emphasize what Professor Malveaux said. He should do that and do that publicly, and he should use the power of his office to deliver a message and then back it up with the power of his office in court and through the Justice Department to ensure voting rights for African Americans.
Henry Fernandez, thank you for joining me tonight. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, you stick around. We're not going to let you go that easily. You're going to join us later in the show to talk about another story that has your name written all over it. Ma'am, thank you so much.